Congratulations
Thanks.
on year 2 and a postseason bid. Can you just kind of take us through what the thinking is and how you move forward this week?
I mean, any press conference right after this SEC is either good news or bad news, so I'm glad it's good news that we have postseason. We obviously are, yesterday was a very strange day because of the way the bracket was released. A lot of emotions with it because we were so close. I've been told by many people we were the last team talked about. Frustrated in a lot of ways because the criteria that eliminated us from consideration against Tennessee was not then applied to other teams, the top wins. Tennessee in because of top wins, and yet we had more top wins than some of the teams that did get in. So we dealt with it. We talked about it. We were together. We did have a kind of a watch party, even though the bracket had been leaked and released. So we were together when it happened. We talked through it. And our kids were just really, really fired up to keep playing. So I think that is something you have to go into the NIT. You can't go into this thing with regrets or looking back or frustrated. You have to refocus, and our kids did that a lot faster than the coaches did. So they're ready to move forward. The coaches are now, after we've slept on it and talked to all our buddies and vented to whoever we vent to, and now we're focused. And you better get focused in a hurry because if you haven't noticed, they don't seed the WNIT on the women's side. There's no way Houston would be a 16 seed in this field. And then you look down the line, and we're certainly not looking past Houston, but if you look in our pod, we've got another team that was one of the last 4 out very soon, and lots of wins on our side. So we have refocused, and we'll have a great practice today, and looking forward to being able to play in Bud Walton Arena on Thursday night.
So Mike, based on, you feel like you were the last team left out of the NCAA tournament?
That's what I was told.
Do you feel like Tennessee got in more on their name? Maybe like if it was been some other school, like maybe you guys had a better resume, but they got in because they're Tennessee?
I look at it because of the head-to-head. I think every metric was even. They might have had more top 50 wins than we did. We had more top 25 wins. And maybe their strength of schedule was a little bit better, but it wasn't that much better. So I don't know that it was reputation, but when it gets down to a tie, every place I've ever played, whether it was the backyard growing up in Greenwood or in the SEC, when things are that even, you look at what happened head-to-head, and we won in Knoxville. So I don't know that it was reputation, but I know that the metric that I was told was top 50 wins, and they had more than we did.
Kind of prepared for this even from last week, kind of thinking this very well could happen.
Yes. Anytime you're in that, you can argue both sides, and I could have argued both sides of it. I certainly am not. I understand why Tennessee deserves to be in. I fought for the fact that I thought we both should be in. That's what I fought for. I think Tennessee should have been in. They're definitely an NCAA tournament team, but I think we are too. So it wasn't an either or for us, but I did feel like because of the 1-point losses to Kentucky, a 1-possession loss to Auburn, I thought those things would catch up to us eventually, and they did. But I didn't expect it, but I was prepared for it. And we tried to be that we have to be as the coaches, because the kids are excited, and you don't want to take that away from them. So expected but prepared, tried to be. But I'm not sure you can really deal with it until you see that bracket come up and you're not in it. It's a hard time. But I was glad our kids got to see it. I think it's something that we'll use for the future. It just breaks my heart for our seniors to get that close and in year 2. And we get all the expectations that I don't think any of us expected to be having that conversation in year 2, and we'll look back on that, I think, as a positive thing. But right now, it still hurts a little bit, and I want it to hurt. It should hurt. I've told them they're not going to forget it. That's that self-awareness and the reality world we try to live in. They'll remember yesterday probably until something else like that happens in their life, and then they'll draw from that, I hope.
Mike, what's the key to getting the kids over the disappointment? Maybe not so much you guys, but what's the key to getting the kids over the disappointment?
Just getting them back on the floor. just getting them back on the floor and putting an opponent out there in front of them. Particularly with this group. This group does so much better when you show them some film and they see who they're up against. I used the analogy the other day of the movie Secretariat when, they figured out Secretariat ran better whenever he saw his competition. So I think our kids are like that. So when we get in there and we show them Houston film, it'll be very easy for them to get back refocused. Because if not, we won't play again. Houston has played in a league that's got a multi-bid league with Central Florida and UConn. They played UConn within 20 points 2 times, had the lead on them deep into the first half, and may have even had a lead at halftime. I'll have to look that up, but played UConn very close twice. So it'll be very easy for our video people to put together a film that'll get our kids' attention. But get them back out on the floor, show them a competitor, and then toss it up. Our kids will respond to that.
It's Jasmine Harris for Houston. She's averaging 16 points, but I guess she must be hurt. Do you know what the story is with her?
She hasn't played in the last, I think, 16 games, and we don't anticipate her. Their leading scorer through those first. I watched their one of their late games last night on film, and it had some commentary, and I heard that them mention that she was done for the year. So we'll see. We'll prepare for her just in case if it ends an injury, but. Most likely if she's been out that many games, I don't suspect she'd be back.
What's your take on Houston? What makes them a challenge?
Well, they're positionless. Ron's a friend. Ron is somebody that I went to Houston. I spent 3 days in Houston talking offense with Ron back when he first we were assistant coaches together for a long time in this profession, and he got his head coaching job at Houston. We talked about offense a lot. I went down there and spent some time with them. They're going to be positionless. Their players their skill sets will all look very similar, and they will play extremely fast. They try to turn you over a little bit more defensively than we do, so it'll be a high possession game, and they are not one of these teams that tries to trick you. They're not going to try to dazzle you with a bunch of actions. They're going to say, "Here's what we do. Good luck stopping it." And I think that'll make for a really entertaining game.
So you went to Houston when he got the head coaching job, and was that in the off season?
It was.
Like in the spring or like summer? Or
Yep.
How long ago was that?
I was at ARC. I was at Washington. It was the year that we had just it would have been the year 2016, the year we went to the Final Four.
Did you pick up any thing that can help you for this game? And when stuff like that goes on, do you ever think I might be playing this guy in the NCAA tournament?
I mean, you do think about it. I mean, I know for a fact he has 2 or 3 plays that we run that we talked about. I run a couple that I got from him. I don't worry about it. I think it's good. I don't like playing friends. I don't like playing people that I'm friends with. When the game happens, I like the lead up to it. I like the build up, but the actual game part I don't like. But no, I don't worry about it. I mean, you still got to go out and stop it, even if you know it's coming.
What was your initial reaction when you saw you'd be playing Houston? You guys being friends and all
that, and obviously with Hunter having been there, the connection there is something that was obviously jumped to our mind real quick. Just that I think it's an intriguing matchup. I don't know that the WNIT. I mean, obviously the WNIT doesn't know we're friends, but I think it's got some. They might. I think the pod itself has got a lot of intrigue to it. So. I hate that we have to play right off the bat, but at least I know one of us is going to advance.
Just off of what Dungy did in the tournament, you expecting them to do any kind of gimmick defenses or things against her?
That would be out of his character. But, I mean, South Carolina came out in some shape in one. I don't know if it was a box in one or a triangle or some four-sided shape. They might. But we're ready for it. I don't think they will. I think he's one of these guys that is going to do what they do and see how it goes. They've got kids that can match up. They've got kids that can really guard off the bounce. So I anticipate they'll be doing a lot of switching. They'll keep fresh legs on her. But I wouldn't expect a gimmick, a hybrid defense.
Do they play man or zone? Or
a little both. Yeah, a little of both. I think he would like to play man as much as he can. They're not extremely deep. He's got 5 kids that play 30 plus or around 30 minutes. Then he'll supplement it in. He does a really good job with his player management. Their roles are very clearly identified. It's easy to pick them out. It's not a personnel scout. This is a system scout. There are a lot of interchangeable pieces. I think they have 3 kids that have made 53s. Is that close? Do y'all have stats there? I mean, that I looked at and I think I got right. It's close to that.
They got 53, 51, and 44. 30.
That's a bunch. So it's going to be a fun game. That's the one thing I like about it. The matchups, I think this time of the year in the NIT, fun matchups are going to be and then, you factor in there just the old Southwest Conference for me. That Houston was that team that the word Hoffein's Pavilion used to scare me. I don't know why, but when I'd hear they're going into Hoffein's Pavilion, I felt like it was like a dungeon all the time. They had that low ceiling, and I remember watching those games. So Ron's from South Carolina, I think, so he probably doesn't have the same ties to the Southwest Conference that I do, but I've certainly still got a lot of memories of Houston.
Hawkins seems to be their leading rebounder. How big a concern is
I mean, she can go get it, but we just played Tierra McCowan and Anriel Howard and India Jones and those guys, so I think we'll be able to draw positively from it. I think Kiera and Taylor have good matchups in there. I think it's kind of fun this time of year to play somebody that we don't know too, because when you get in that league and you play the league tournament, every time I stand up and yell twirl side, the other coach is yelled up, calling out the actions and knows our play calls. And it's kind of fun to go up against somebody that doesn't know everything about you and know you inside and out. So, but I think she's a concern because we are susceptible sometimes to rebounding being a difference maker. So she'll get our attention.
The stats say they went 9-7 on the road. How impressive is that?
It is impressive. It means they've got good team culture. It means they've got a lot of leadership, which they do have. He's got a lot of kids. Hawkins was one of his first kids that he ever recruited and signed. So they certainly know their roles. When you look at it, we have a few common opponents. In Tulsa, they handled them pretty easily, and we hit a buzzer beater. So they have our full attention. And like I said, it's obvious it's not a 1-16. If you look at the bracket, here we are at the top left corner, and you feel like a 1 seed, and you're supposed to play a 16 seed in a 64-team bracket. But I don't think they are anywhere close to that. They're a single-digit seed if we were seeding it.
And obviously, disappointment not to be in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Second year in the program, how big a step is this to get to the postseason?
I think we jumped a couple of hurdles. We use dominoes and hurdles as our images when we're talking about where we're at in the timeline of this thing. And for it to be, we wanted to be in the postseason. That was something we talked about all year long. And when y'all can go back to one of our first press conferences where we talked about the two, we judged our practices based on which tournament we thought our season would end in, SEC, NIT, or NCAA. And we judged every single practice at the end of it. And ironically, we were about 50-50 NCAA and NIT. It was about the same number. So I think, we certainly had postseason aspirations, but to be that close to the NCAA in year 2, certainly jumped a couple extra hurdles or knocked down a couple of dominoes. And that goes back to a couple of factors. One, the leadership that Malcolm Monk, Raven Baker, and Bailey Zimmerman gave us as upperclassmen, and Jalen Mason and Kiera and Taylor, all the returners, in welcoming in Toll-Free, Dungy, Rokia, the newcomers that came in and contributed. That's hard to do in year 2, and it took us some time. It didn't happen immediately. We had all kinds of things that we dealt with in Italy and the preseason, and we got through them all, and everybody stuck together, and it came together at the right time. So those things are all behind us now. So we've knocked down a bunch of dominoes that we'll never go back and reset up. So, and the way that you can tell that we're ahead is in recruiting. Our class that's coming in is ranked as high as 10th or 11th, I think, in the country. Those kids, one of them just won her 3rd straight state championship, was MVP again. Another one broke all kinds of scoring records in Minnesota at her school. Another one took her team deep in Oklahoma State tournament, and we all saw what Marquisha did up here at Springdale this year. So you see the dominoes and ahead in the process affecting recruiting, and then the number of homes that we're setting in. Obviously, I can't mention specifics, but the people that we're involved with in the future, it means we are ahead. It means Arkansas is somebody that the top kids are considering, and that means we're ahead in the process.
Has Monk's hand pretty well healed, or
it still hurts, yeah. But she's gotten used to playing with it. That's where, that topic came up too in some of this discussion. They were saying, well, y'all had that little stretch where you lost 8 games in a row. I said, yeah, and a lot of people in the country would have lost those same 8 games. If you put any of those teams up, they would have lost those same games too. Especially when you consider, Mal broke her hand in the Auburn game, and IT was out for that game. We were playing Mason at the point guard for 15 minutes of that game before Mal also hurt her ankle. So her hand is still hurt. It's going to be hurt until she can get it fixed, but she has learned to manage it. You watch her. She shoots it a little bit differently. And I told her the other day she may shoot it a little bit better. So she have broke her hand, I guess, a little bit earlier. But she's just a warrior, and that's why it breaks my heart for a kid like that. But if you look at the kid that handles it as fast, she's immediately become a leader. And, hey, let's go win this thing. Turn the page. We can't control what we can't control. Let's go win the next game. She's tweeting, can't wait to be back in Bud Walton. She loves this place. She's an Arkansas kid, and I'm glad that we get to play here one more time for her.
Mike, speaking of the end of the regular season and the postseason, I think you guys jumped 25 RPI points in like 3 days, and you're an RPI expert. Has that ever happened before? Is that common to be able to make that type of jump?
It's so hard late in the year to move at all because the math is just added up. It's moving 1 or 2 spots is hard. But when you look at who we played, you beat 3 teams that are ranked, 3 teams higher than you, and then you play Mississippi State again. That got us in the conversation because the RPI did jump so high. We were still going to be on the lower end of the spectrum had we gotten in. It wouldn't have been a record number, but it was in that area. But we got ourselves in the conversation because of that jump. I don't remember anybody jumping that high that late. There's probably somebody that's done it, but that's the most I've ever been a part of by far.
It's toll-free. What kind of snapped her out of her slump, do you feel?
She told me. She said that the fact that everybody just stuck with her. She said, she was down on herself, but when she realized that she was the only one down on anybody, nobody was down on her. When she realized that, she went home and she shot with her junior college coach a little bit. So I think she got into a comfortable spot. I think part of it was just the sheer hitting of the wall that freshmen and junior college kids experience. It's just different when you get into February of the SEC than wherever you've been. It's different. And she had never handled it before. And once she realized she was going to be okay, and then specifically, too, if you go back and look at our Texas A&M game, Coach Blair and I were literally just laughing about it a minute ago on the phone when I walked in. There was a little jawing going on in that Texas A&M game between her and one of the Texas A&M players. And she went on, Toll-Free goes on like a little spurt where she hits back-to-back threes, gets a steal, takes a charge, blocks a shot. So I figured out we just got to let somebody make her mad. So I'll do a better job of fabricating stories if I need to with Toll-Free. But she told me it was just thanks for sticking with me, thanks for believing. And I think her teammates did that too. The fact that we didn't make a change. I told her, I said, we thought about it, but we never did it because we do believe in you. You earned it. And, I don't want them to ever give up on me if I have a bad couple of weeks. So I'm not going to give up on them either. And I think our team surrendered to each other and the coaches over the last month of the season. And some teams do that early in the year, some teams do it, but when you kind of surrender to each other, and that's when your team gets special. And I think we've had a pretty special team since the beginning of February.
You guys played 4 games in 4 days, which is at high level, which is obviously really hard, but now you've had 11 days off. Is that just kind of a weird dynamic to play 4 games in 4 days and you don't play for 11 days? And are you worried about being rusty at all or anything like that? Or
that old rested argument. And I don't know which way. Every team's been different with me, Bob. I mean, from every school we've ever been. The one thing I have learned is you need to be healthy and happy right now. So we've had a healthy amount of time off, healthy amount of competition. We haven't gone long, but we've gone extremely hard. It is always something that you usually don't know whether you get it right until it's over. So we'll see. I think our group functions better when they're rested and happy. So that's where we've got them. We kind of use the Bruce Lee method too of things in basketball. We start stripping things away rather than adding late in the year. Rather than adding new actions, we strip away things that we did in the middle of the year, and we get really, really focused. I mean, I can give you our scouting report right now. I gave it to Ron last night. He said he was up watching film. But I said, go to bed. We're going to set a flat ball screen for Dungy on about 4 different angles. We're going to get it to Mal on the wing in the same type of shape. And then look for Mason and Tolfree being spotted up. And if you don't run in transition with Kieran Taylor, you're not going to win anyway. That's the end of your scout. So we've simplified it. We've kept them loose. We've kept them happy. We've kept them fed. That's the other thing with it being spring break. I gave them 3 days off at the end of last week in a row, 3 days in a row, because they are sacrificing spring break. This is the first time this group's had to not have a spring break. And in all actuality, when you're a basketball player, you shouldn't make spring break plans. You should expect to be playing deep into April, know where the finish line's at. But this group has not had that. So I wanted them to have a little time. A lot of them got out and had a little bit of their spring break toward the end of the week last weekend. And now we're able to focus on basketball without having other distractions that are going on with the regular student body being on campus. Nothing from the back of the room today? Nothing. These guys covered it. When you got the legends, you just I understand. I do the same thing when Blair's in the room. I just sit back and listen. Thanks, y'all.